And I think it's not a surprise that now that Charlie's not with us anymore, we are starting to see the infighting, the bubbling up, even Trump yelling at Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, I think Charlie was a negotiator and a leader, and he brought people together, and he helped. He was diplomacy between these various factions, and without him, everyone's going in different directions. I do think here's what I agree with you on, Elaad. Donald Trump as a character, there are all these different factions on the right that look up at Trump and say, here's what I agree with. And so that creates a sort of de facto, we're all here, we all agree we like Trump. But I believe Charlie was the one at the ground level going between each group and saying, what do you need? What can I do for you? Stick together. And without him, it's being ripped apart and people are going at each other's throats.
Sure, I'm just thinking of all these different factions too, like traditionalists, pro-life people with, people who would otherwise disagree with a lot of the things he does or says, willing to look past that and get on board. I don't know if somebody like a J.D. Vance or a Marco Rubio would be able to achieve that in the future, especially when we're seeing more of these cracks in the Republican coalition. So, I mean, I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. A couple of weeks ago, there was a big uproar on the right from Tucker Carlson interviewing Nick Fuentes, and then Kevin Roberts, president of the Heritage Foundation, put out a statement on Twitter defending Tucker and saying people who are calling him anti-Semitic were wrong and that he stands with Tucker firmly and strongly. There's a big uproar to that. You were, of course, the chief of staff at the time and defended and supported Mr. Roberts' statement at the time. They kind of folded to that backlash. It led to a shakeup at the Heritage Foundation that included you. Could you tell us a little bit more about what their thinking was behind the scenes and if they're feeling like they're caving to so-called cancel culture?
I mean, I think Kevin has explained himself, and I don't think I need to explain anything for Dr. Roberts, right? I think he's a good man who, I don't think he's necessarily apologized for the statement. I think he stood by the fact that we should not engage in cancel culture. I mean, who's to tell a guy like Tim who we can and can't have on a show like this? Right? Like that's not our role. And I think, one of the things that was occurring, and, Kevin talked about this on Dana Loesch, I think the day after he put out the statement, was there are people behind the scenes that are trying to do that are trying to tell people who you can and cannot platform, right? And try to police speech. I mean, maybe that post-World War II liberalism sentiment prevails in some circles, but those of us who are actually conservatives and trying to conserve the ideals of the American founding, one of those is primarily free speech. And when there's bad ideas, you hash them out and you point out what's bad about them, and then you point out what's good, right? And you redirect people towards what's correct. And I think, President Trump put that in his own way the other night. I think Tate was recognizing that. I mean, President Trump said himself, why would I tell Tucker Carlson who he can or can't have on a show? And I mean, ironically enough, you want to talk about who's on people's shows. I mean, nobody was freaking out when Patrick Bet-David had Nick Fuentes on his show a month before, right? That doesn't mean that everyone's endorsing Nick Fuentes' ideas.
Just to play devil's advocate here, the thing about Tucker Carlson is that I know he can be a great journalist when he chooses to do so, but for some reason he chooses to pick and choose who he uses kids' gloves with. So, for example, when he was going at Ted Cruz, he made sure to have every question set up and ready to go. Some people would argue that he threw a lot of softballs to Nick and was using this opportunity to kind of hedge around his edges.
And could the difference be senator versus random internet guy?
Sure. I think he's more than a random internet guy. Just have you heard that? And what do you think of somebody arguing things like that?
Have I heard that people think he put on kids' gloves?
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's plainly thrown out into the internet ether, and that's a conversation. I think, what Tim's saying, Ted Cruz is a presidential candidate. Tucker Carlson is interviewing some random internet guy with an internet following. There's no reason to make excuses or arguments for why Tucker did what he did or didn't do, right? All of that's up to Tucker, right? And Tucker, at the end of the day, it's his show, how he performs it and how he does it. Either his viewership will decline or it will increase based upon what he does. And who am I, some random guy in America, to be like, Tucker, don't do that, right? Mm-hmm. He's not going to care what I think, and he doesn't need to care what I think, right? If I don't want to watch it, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, with infighting like this, do you think the MAGA coalition is sustainable?
I think it has to be. I think if not, then you lose 28 and you go to the gulags.
You lose 26. Yeah. And I think there's a possibility of it. I do think the higher probability is that as the midterms come closer, everybody starts hyper-focusing. What's going to happen is Democrats will start campaigning. They're going to start saying crazy things. The focus in the news cycle will be Democrat promises insane thing they have no power to offer. And then it doesn't matter if you're pro or anti-Israel. Everyone's focus is going to be that's nuts, and this will bring the right together again. However, it doesn't bode well for 28, depending on what Vance has to offer and what his position is going to be, because you are going to get these people who are like, well, Vance, are you pro-Israel? And Tucker is a prominent anti-Zionist personality. He's critical of Israel, and he's got a big following. So if J.D. Vance comes out and says, we're for Israel, Tucker then says, I'm not voting for you. Or I'm not interested. And then his audience says no, and you lose the voters you need to win.
I think you're going to lose the American interest if everything we do is debate foreign policy, right? Like
Agreed.
The American people are purely focused on an America First agenda. They want to see an agenda, particularly Gen Z, who is promised a world that they're just not seeing around them, right? Promised upward mobility, promised that if they go to college and get an expensive education, that they would have a high-paying job in a place where they want to live and raise their family, and they could go buy a beautiful home with a white picket fence and have that, stereotypical dog and 3 kids running around in the front yard, right? That's not accessible to people, and people are sick and tired of hearing all about foreign affairs, foreign relations, and they just want to hear about how can you make America better. They want mass deportations. They don't want half measures. They want to stop seeing, blue-collar workers undermined by H-1B workers. Right?
This is interesting. Young Gen Z, 18 to 21, favor Republicans. Older Gen Z, 22 to 29, are more Democratic. Isn't it crazy that Gen Z is 29 years old?
Well, and what's more remarkable is where that split is basically COVID.
Yes.
So you have the post-COVID Zoomers, pre-COVID Zoomers. Pre-COVID Zoomers are like an extension of millennials, effectively. It's the post-COVID Zoomers are like the really base, supposedly. Where with post-COVID Zoomers, they're quite literally either trans analogs, effectively, or they're literally like basically groypers. Like there's not much in between there.
I don't know about
Zoomer
that.
waffle.
I don't know about that.
Maybe not that, but like
I don't think that. Like I think there's this
increasingly
narrative going
right-wing.
around. There's this narrative going around that like the GOP has a Nazi problem. Like that's absurd.
Laura Loomer
YouGov
just tweeted that today.
Yeah, I mean, how absurd of an argument is that? I mean, YouGov, it was like last November, did polling on that question of like, what is the American perspective on Hitler? And 1% of Americans, literally 1% of Americans, said that they thought good things about Hitler.
And that was just the groypers.
Dude, it is such a small fraction of people that
Ryan,
even care about this.
You understand though that like
I was using that by the way
this
as a
all
joke
like kind
to
of
say very
circles
right-wing. Yeah.
circles back to though. It's like the person who Tucker was interviewing, Nick Fuentes, has said good things about Hitler though and spoken of him in a positive light. And Tucker used kids' gloves when asking about that stuff. He chose not to at all. So I guess the greater point would be while you're saying that it's only 1% of the population saying this guy is in an interview with Tucker where Tucker has nothing to say about it. And I think one of the bigger issue here becomes that if Fuentes becomes the face of the Republican Party, then the Republicans aren't going to win because this guy is unpalatable to a general electorate beyond, the online right. Frankly, and maybe small parts of the electorate, but definitely not to a general electorate, in my estimation. So I think that's I don't know, is it truly 1%? Because the internet would have me thinking something different unless I mean,
that's the problem is that it's the internet. All of this conversation is framed within the internet. I think there's millions of Americans.
Yeah, I'm on the
no
internet
idea
right now, though. I'm not
what's
going to
being
say I
talked
love
about.
Hitler, and I don't think that he was a bad guy, and that I look up to him, and I think Stalin were great guys, even though we're on the internet. It's like,
Yeah,
I
even
think-
like a lot of Zoomers IRL, like even if their politics, are pretty far to the left, pretty far to the right, like they code very normally. They're still like a lot of normal kids. Like you're saying, was it Rod Dreher? He was talking about the Zoomer staffing in DC. He said, I estimate 30 to 40% are groypers. And I think he's using that as an analog because I think they're trying to set this trap up and they're trying to poison the well with Vance, where they're trying to say anyone that is to the right of like Ted Cruz is a groyper. And so like that's the trap that was being set up. And Roger is great or whatever, but I'm just saying I don't think that 30 to 40% are like tuning into Nick Fuentes every night. I think they're just people that are disaffected right-wingers that are just kind of frustrated at the way things are moving, and so they want to see more, and they get labeled groypers, and I don't think that's entirely true. So that's what I was saying earlier. I was like, to the right, they're groypers. I was just saying,
Ryan, you were on the Hill
analog.
before. What do you make of that estimate of 30 to 40%?
I've never met anyone that calls themselves a groyper.
Exactly.
Never. Like it's a purely internet term.
It's called hiding your power level. You don't understand.
Oh, hiding. Yeah.
That's right.
I
Like
don't
Goku.
understand. Yeah.
Well, no, I just see that, and I'm just so suspicious. You can see it. That's what they're going to try to do. Is they're going to do what they did with the alt-right, where they're going to use that as like a dragnet for 28 when Vance is running, and they're going to say, I think this is the neocon play, and they're going to try and drag him.
This is the woke right play. This is what they say woke right
dragnet.
is.
It's a dragnet.
And they are proudly declaring that woke right means the same thing as alt-right. It's a catch-all term to excise people from the right.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, you're just seeing the pincer set up right now, and young people are again they've grown up in a world where it's like, why would you? If you're a centrist, that means you have some degree of loyalty to the system, some degree of wanting to uphold it. And if you're like like a post-COVID Zoomer, why would you be a centrist? Like what on earth has this system done to reward you in any way whatsoever? It's a total joke. So it's like, yeah, of course people are increasingly conservative, increasingly leftist. It's like, yeah. I mean, at least the people that are on the far left are also acknowledging something's wrong.
So someone like, if you're genuinely interested in the Gen Z debate and like the direction that our nation is heading, I mean, Mark Mitchell has been doing a lot of interesting polling and just kind of, you know, message testing with Gen Z on like how they feel about these things. And one thing that's really notable is, you know, Gen Z is not as concerned about like the policy debate and the press release and like the campaign sloganeering. Like they care about outcomes. And that's like when it comes to like the Epstein file conversation, like we were talking about earlier, right? Like the problem that comes with like after this and like why it's a continual sideshow is because there has to be accountability if there are problems, right? And the American people just aren't used to seeing accountability from like the governing party right now. Mm-hmm. And Gen Z says, okay, we just imported like 20 million illegal immigrants like during the Biden administration. Like who knows the actual number, right? Like the actual number is not going to be reported. But how many non-citizens do we have here that were probably on the terror watch list, right? Yeah. Like how many, you know, PRC guys like slipped through and are now, you know, plotting an attack of some sort, right? Like you hear about these things all the time, but like why aren't we engaging in a full-on mass deportation effort? That's what people want.
You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Republican Congress people who have gone soft on immigration are the same Congress people who pushed the vote for the Epstein files. That is Thomas Massie and again Marjorie Taylor Greene have softened up their tones a lot on mass deportations. And I don't think it's a coincidence.
What has Massie said about it?
Massie says that it's not like one of his big goals, and like,
but is that?
And he supports H-1B visas. Mm-hmm. Not enough for me.
He maintains.
And then Marjorie Taylor Greene said, like, oh, it's impractical for big businesses to get rid of all these illegal immigrants. And she recently did a media tour angling to that effect.
I thought she was critical of Trump's H-1Bs.
She doesn't think that we should be deporting as many people. She doesn't think we'll be able to deport all the illegal immigrants. And Massie supports H-1B visas.
Really?
She doesn't think that we will be able to.
I'll find the direct quote
that we should.
I'll find the quote.
I feel like I've heard the opposite, but I don't know.
Yeah,
no,
right.
And I think because they're counter signal.
Trump came out and said we're going to give H-1Bs and we're going to do Chinese visas, and Marjorie was like, no. I thought that she took the other. I thought that's what Trump got mad at her. He was like, oh, you know, she's texting me about this. What did he say? She keeps calling me, and then Marjorie was like, no, I texted him about it. One thing.
And it's like, regardless of the GOP, with young right-wing guys, the priority is immigration. That's like what we see. That's what's affecting us directly. And a lot of people like will come onto the show or they'll go into the zeitgeist in general, and they're like, the deficit's the biggest issue. And it's like, I get that, but that's not how you like win. I mean, the America Party, that was the whole idea, is like worry about money. And it's like, dude, we're like, Costco's a disaster.
I was thinking about our costs here, and you know, I started to look into it, and I realized that if I replaced, you know, Phil, Elaad, and Tate with H-1Bs from India, the show would be a lot cheaper to run, and Serge, of course, and it would be a very, very interesting political show that, you know, I think would be worth pursuing.
The left brain is for crime.
Just we actually had a joke about this a few years ago where we wanted to open. Actually, we can do this with AI now. The only problem, you know what really is messed up about the AI stuff like Sora is I'm Tim Pool and I own the rights to this. And when I go to Sora and say like make an episode of IRL, like I put a video in of me, it's like this is copyright protected. It won't let me do it. And I'm like, it's me. But you know, so
I get the same thing when it comes to All That Remains of Music.
Okay. Right? Yeah. It's like, won't let you
copyright protected. I'm like, I own it.
So the recent comments I was referring to with Marjorie Taylor Greene was her criticizing the ways that the immigration raids are going. She's saying that there needs to be a more humane way to conduct ICE raids. Was her criticism.
Okay, well that's different than saying that she doesn't support deportations.
There was more, but
because to be honest with you, I mean, people might say the same thing about me. While I don't agree with her, I do think that the optics of the ICE raids can end up causing problems for actually deporting people because you get squishy, left-leaning liberal women that get out there and scream and yell because it looks like you're hurting.
I also have this quote about Marjorie Taylor Greene in the Rift, talking about how the Epstein rift, and she said, quote, "This has been one of the most destructive things to MAGA is watching the man we supported early on 3 elections oppose the bill," she told reporters, Watching this actually turn into a fight has ripped Meg apart, and Elaad Eliyahu who has no idea what he's talking about. The last part I made up, just so you guys are aware.
Okay, so she also said, as a business owner in the construction industry, that we need to be realists about labor and create a smarter plan in the business industry and the labor and the construction industry around immigration. So she's virtue signaling that we're trying too aggressively to deport illegal immigrants from construction sites in particular. She came up in the construction business. Her family has a lot of construction business.
Is it against the rules of YouTube for me to say we should deport Elaad
Why would you want to deport me, Tim?
back to Israel?
Just for the comedy.
I'm from Long Island, baby.
just for the lulls.
I'm from Long Island. I think I'm just as American as apple pie.
Send you
Yeah,
back
well,
send you back to New
you
York.
hear Staten Island wants to secede from New York?
Sure, nobody gives a crap about Staten Island. Like,
Agreed,
let 'em
so
go
they should be able to
complain.
secede from New
Let 'em go
York.
nag about it.
They don't want to be part of Kami Mamdani's utopia.
Yeah, you can
No,
talk
I don't
a big
know.
game
All
about
this-
Staten Island. You lose the impractical
I don't know.
jokers, and you'll be regretting that.
All of this rhetoric about deporting me and heritage Americans and what it means to be an American, it makes me think I might be first in the camp if we build them. I don't know. If we're
Look,
what
Elaad,
is an American? What makes somebody an American citizen? Tim's here talking about deporting me. I thought he was hiding me in the attic if shit hit the fan. I guess I'm first in the chambers. People like to say, "Oh, I'm first in the gulag." No. I'm seriously.
no. You don't
Elaad,
understand.
you'll be like
Elaad.
near the end.
And they're saying Ryan is probably going to be the first one to take me.
You misunderstand.
That's what I'm reading about him.
When it hits the fan, I'm gonna be sitting with Tate going, "Wait for the cream," and you're gonna be sitting there with a stone cold look on your face.
No. Everybody knows I really pull the strings here.
Elaad, you'll be
Come
one of the
on.
last. We love you so much. When we start the Heritage American re-education camp, she'll be like,
Don't worry.
Don't
Don't
worry.
don't worry, Elaad. Under the floorboards,
Okay, good.
and
Guys,
then that'll be more the scene where you're looking up at the feet, and then you can run through the fields. We'll make sure you get away.
Or disavow everything, by the way.
I'm saying we'll protect our.
We're going to protect our friend.
That's right.
It's safe under the floorboards. There's a
You know-
bug
you
out
know-
shelter down there.
What we'll do is we're gonna shave his mustache and head, and then teach him how to speak with a Southern accent, and then Although to be fair, Sean did think you were Indian.
That's the first time I got that. Let's not get into Sean.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.